So I've been playing Face Your Fears 2, which is a sequel to the 2016 game Face Your Fears, and when I say game, what I really mean is an experience, and this came out at a time where VR was still trying to find its feet, and it still very much is, but Face Your Fears 2 really is such a well done sequel compared to the first game, and it does show the achievement and how far VR has really come. As I mentioned, Face Your Fears was more of an experience game where you sit in one spot and then the game just sort of plays around you. You see like these cinematics of horror and things that you're scared of, and it is pretty neat. It looks great and it is very scary to sit through, especially when you're in VR. It puts you on edge, especially the little boy in the bedroom one, which is my personal favourite. But it really didn't do much else, and it had no replayability besides just sitting through it and maybe watching your friends react and seeing how they handle being in VR and being in these scary situations, and that's about it, and you really had no reason to go back to it besides that. But luckily, you know, it's free and you was able to download it and just take it all in. Face Your Fears 2 though is a totally different story. In Face Your Fears 2, you're given two story modes that you're able to sit through, and they actually do link together, but for spoiler reasons and so I don't spoil too many jump scares, I'm only going to show you one side of the story, which is the 1980s section, The Investigation, and personally I think this one is actually the better one as well, but I don't want to spoil the other one for you, so I'm not going to show you that. But unlike its predecessor, this game has full gameplay controls. It has you walking around, it has you taking part in a story that has full dialogue and voice acting and characters. It has very, very good built up tensional scares, though some of them are cheap jump scares, such as this one. But then there are really good scares which follow the rules of horror, which means you set up a situation which the people become used to. So for example, you look or use a device and you get used to what this device does and you don't expect anything else from it. And then all of a sudden what you usually expect to happen doesn't happen, and then something scarier happens. But all I'm going to say is camera, and then people who've played this game should understand what I'm saying. But this is a really good technique, and it is a great way to get in scares, and also it is a great way to build the tension and make you worried about what's to come in the future of this game and what else is going to throw you off guard. Luckily, this game doesn't really go for the too realistic, gritty horror. It does want to show you disgusting imagery. It is there just to say, ha, boo, scary ghost or whatever, and it does a good job of that, and it does a good job of balancing the goofy with the scary. There's moments where you generally feel terrified, you feel like you just don't want to investigate anymore, but then there's moments where you realise, wait, these ghosts are goofy looking, they're kind of like Ghostbusters ghosts, where they are their own characters and they're shiny and glowy, because they know VR is very difficult to get through, especially in horror as a genre, so it's goofy enough to let you keep going and not feel too worried or too terrified to keep going, because you sort of understand, yet this isn't real, by far it's completely goofy and it's its own thing. And even the scares on their own, they take a lot of inspiration from old horror films. This game really shows a lot of inspiration from Evil Dead, for example, where you go into a cabin, there's a deer's head on the wall, there's a Delta 88 Royal, which is Ash Williams' car right outside. It really does show its inspirations. You know, it takes example from Poltergeist or Annabelle, and like I said earlier, Ghostbusters, and it's these charming and great horror films which really give this game its own character and also just makes you sort of fall in love with the world that they're trying to build here. But when this game has scares and they want to scare you, this game does such a great job of it. It sort of takes the moment that is quite cheerful and light and then all of a sudden flip it on its head and taking you all the way to a Texas Chainsaw Massacre style of horror where it happens so quick and so fast that it sort of catches you off guard and it makes you panic, and I think they did a really good job of that, and I really do love the scares, especially the fridge in the kitchen. That got me good. The story here itself, okay, it isn't a masterpiece, it isn't great. It's you play as an investigator who has to go after his friend who's been taken into the underworld of some sort, and then it goes from there, and of course it is what it is. It's cheesy, it's goofy, it is fun. Even the dialogue itself is very on the nose, and I do respect that, and it does, once again, it makes it feel fun, but at the same time, you know, it's still providing the scares you expect from a horror game, and you're not really sure what's going to be around the next corner. It also has some pretty good puzzles. The mannequin puzzle itself is probably some of the most fun I've had in VR, with just playing with mannequins and physics within a game. The fact you can pose this mannequin skin however you want and make it do stupid animations. It sort of makes you get rid of all the horror and all the scary stuff that's about to happen or happened prior, and just sort of lets you enjoy the moment. And I really do appreciate this puzzle, though this puzzle is a really good part because it also goes back to the traditional face your fears. Hence it shows you different fears. It makes you claustrophobic, maybe shows you being fear of being drowned, or maybe fears of animals and rats. Like, it does a really good job of showing different layers of fear, and I really do appreciate that they tried to do a callback to the first game by showing you these different levels of fear and what maybe you're scared of and what triggers you and maybe what doesn't trigger you. And also the length of these stories is really surprising. It took me about an hour just to get through the first one alone, because most VR games, especially horror games, are usually small experience games which don't let you enjoy or take in the world for too long, maybe about 15-20 minutes. But the fact you've got two different stories here and even a lot of replayability that you can just enjoy and take in and really keep playing, and actually takes a bit of time. It starts feeling like a real game, and it has a lot of gameplay mechanics that, you know, was not seen in the first one and that have actually come quite popular within VR. Recently VR seems to be pointing towards a lot of climbing mechanics. Blade and Sorcery, for example, adding a climbing mechanic. Just a lot of games seem to be taking this on board, and I think that's a really cool step, and it shows the evolution of VR and what people really expect to see. And it also is just totally a different way to scale a level than you can see on any other traditional platform. I feel like Turtle Rock really hit it out of the park when it came to this game, and I really hope to see this series continue and hopefully come about again when VR has evolved again, because it really does show the difference from 2016 to 2019, the grade and what people expect to see from a VR game, and this game really did impress me. I do have a few problems though. Like I said though, the story, it wasn't too great, but it is what it is, and it provides the scares and the puzzles that you would expect to see in this game. But this game also doesn't have a lot of interactability. Like, you can't interact with things of the environment, and I think that is definitely a big part of immersion, especially when it comes to VR. I've always said this, the best part of VR games is when you see something on a desk and you can just pick it up and throw it or do whatever you want, because it sort of adds to that level of immersion. It makes you feel like you're there in that world, even if it's something so unimportant, but the fact you can touch it and play with it, it really does build the world itself. And this game sort of lacks that, and it sort of takes it back a step, and it sort of shows that, you know, maybe games should feature this a lot more. Also, the locomotion and how you move in this game, I did start feeling really sick for some reason playing this game. I do get a lot of travel sickness, and it's been a while since a VR game has gotten me this ill, but I actually had to take a few breaks just recording this game because it was getting a little bit too much. I don't know if there's something about the way your character turns around, and I don't like to play the games with the snap feature because it just ruins the immersion, and I really feel a lot more uncomfortable just snapping left and right. It just doesn't feel right to me. I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, please feel free to leave a like and maybe subscribe for more videos like this every week. I'm currently working on a Defector review, which has gone completely wrong because my files have deleted several times. So hopefully I should be getting that video out very soon. But if you really enjoyed Face Your Fears 2, please let me know what you thought down below. Maybe if you thought the first one was actually a better as an experience game, I would like to know. Honestly, I would. I'm actually trying to make a lot more VR content, as you can probably tell from down below. So please tell me what you think about this VR content style as well, and maybe what I should do to change it up a bit or maybe improve it. Anyway, thank you very much, and of course I'll see you at the next checkpoint.